Hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're going to take a quick look at the AkVasto, which is a weapon that I really wanted to check out after I did the quick look at Vasto Prime. Now, first things first, if you want to get your hands on this weapon, you will first have to buy the blueprint from the market, which will cost you 50,000 credits, and to build it, you will basically just combine two of these standard Vastos with 20,000 credits and 2 Orokin cells. And just in case you don't know, you get the standard Vasto from the market as well. This time around, the blueprint will cost you 30,000 credits, and each Vasto will then take 30,000 credits, 4 new roads, 1200 alloy plates, 700 ferrite, and 1000 polymer bundles. Now, the AkVasto are a pair of semi-automatic dual pistols that require you to be at least Mastery Rank 8 to use them, and they do 58 damage with each shot. 29 is slash and 14.5 is both puncture and impact. They fire up to 8.67 rounds per second with 12 rounds in the magazine, 210 rounds in total, and a 2-second reload time. Now, the supporting stats are a bit on the low side because they only have 16% crit chance with a below average 1.8 times crit multiplier and only 12% status chance. Which actually isn't as bad as it sounds, especially the status chance, because this is a secondary weapon, so it has access to far more multi-shot than a primary weapon, and it can fire as fast as you can click, which is always good for status. And I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to go for a status, crit, or a hybrid build, so I played around with them a little bit as I was leveling the weapon for Forma, and the one I ended up liking the most, and the one that felt the best, was the status build. Now, since the weapon doesn't come with any polarities as standard, I had to add 3 Forma, and all 3 of them were a V. And it's sort of a feels-good status build that's running Hornet Strike for damage, then Barrel Diffusion for multi-shot, a Lethal Torrent for fire rate and multi-shot, then I went for a mod that I don't use very often, and that is Stunning Speed, which adds a little bit of status chance on top of reload speed. And while this may seem a little bit weird because the weapon only has a 2-second reload, it didn't feel particularly good because of how much fire rate you have and how quickly you can empty out your magazine. Then I slapped on Ogre Pact for more damage, Scorch for some heat damage and status chance, and finally Pistol Pestilence and Jolt for corrosive damage and even more status. Now, the performance isn't quite there when it comes to heavy units at level 100, so I decided to bump the test down to level 80, which is still higher than the majority of enemies you will run into while playing the game. Now, I did try a viral slash build as well, but the damage distribution on the weapon doesn't quite lend itself towards that kind of build because you only have 50% slash, so I was proccing puncture and impact a lot, which takes away from the slash procs. So the corrosive and heat setup just felt a lot better. Especially versus the infested, where viral setups are usually somewhat meh, whereas the corrosive heat setups are really good. I would not hesitate to take this into an infested sortie 3 because, as you can see, it performs really well. And finally, we have the Corpus, where the weapon once again slowed down a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. It was basically as effective as it was versus the Grenier, but bear in mind I'm still using Corrosive and Heat, which isn't that great versus the Corpus. I was also testing it against Corpus techs, which constantly throw shield drones, which basically heal them because they restore their shields. I think it's also important to mention that I always test the weapons against high tier units that only make up a very small minority of the enemy force. Most of the enemies are going to be things like Lancers that die from 2, maybe 3 shots. Now, while it might seem like I'm trying to make the weapon look better than it actually is, I'm not, because I thoroughly believe that this weapon needs to be buffed by at least a little bit, because, I mean, for God's sakes, it's in the Mastery Rank 8 bracket, so it's up against the Pandero. I mean, what? The Pandero does more damage, has higher crit multi, has 2% less status, woo, and it has half the reload time. How are these two weapons even remotely similar power-wise? I mean, yeah, the Pandero fires slower on the primary fire, but it also has a secondary fire where you just fan the hammer and you fire out the rest of your magazine really quickly. I demand justice! Can't hit the table too hard because I would deafen you. So please DE a wee bit of a buff, or you know what, forget about the buff and give me AkVasto Prime. I would be okay with that as well. That would be awesome. But anyway, back to the AkVasto. I like it. I like it in the sort of just, you know, quietly going bang, 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 and giggling kind of way. I mean, come on, man, you're wielding 2 awesome looking revolvers. If you're not gonna do that, I don't think we can be friends. It's not the strongest weapon in the world, unless you have a really good Riven, that is, because it does have almost perfect Riven disposition, but it has so much swag. I just love aiming down sights with this weapon because you get a really good look of the barrels and you can watch them alternate as you fire. It is super cool. So I would definitely recommend you check this weapon out. It packs more than enough punch to get you through the vast majority of the game and do most sorties for you, and it's just buckets of fun. It is really fun to use. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, so I thank you very much for watching, as always guys, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.